everyone. I'm Liliana Śmiech, Vice President of Warsaw Institute, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's event, Closing of Turów Power Plant, Polish and Czech View. The project is financed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Republic of Poland under the title Polish-Czech Forum. We are honored today to host Tomasz Petriczek, a senior non-resident fellow at the Prague Institute for International Relations, who also works at the Center for Global Political Economy. Hello.
Hello.
And we're also a pleasure to host today Jakub Wiech, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Energetyka 24. Hello.
Hello.
So at the outset, I would like to ask Tomasz what your energy system looks like in the Czech Republic. We know that at the beginning of the year, the government of the Czech Republic published its action plan for the coming years. And among of those declarations, there are plans to move away from coal in the Czech Republic by 2033. So could you tell our viewers what exactly your energy mix consists of and what are the prospects for changing it?
Thank you, Liliana. I would start by saying that Czech energy mix is to some extent similar to the Polish energy mix, largely relying on coal for electricity production, which brings a lot of challenges for the future. I forgot to say that the coal is also largely fueling central heating systems, which is kind of typical for our region as well. There is one area where we have an advantage compared probably to Poland because of already developed nuclear energy system, which is representing a substantial part in electricity production. But in other areas, I would say that Czech and Polish energy mix is relatively similar. For example, in terms of natural gas reliance and dependency, it is around 17% of our primary energy consumption in both countries. And relatively similar is also in terms of renewables and other primary energy sources like oil. So the big difference is nuclear presence of nuclear energy in our energy mix, while similar is still a relatively high reliance on coal.
And could you be more specific? I mean, are you planning to build another nuclear power plant? And if so, are there any plans at which border are you planning to do it?
You're right. We are also undertaking a substantial energy transformation. First, because of the climate and energy goals of the European Union, the Green Deal, where we are gradually going to phase out coal as a major source in our energy mix. You have mentioned that we are targeting towards 2033, which has been discussed over the past 3 years, that due to the rising costs and due to the environmental costs, this is no longer sustainable. And we will switch for nuclear and renewables. And also we will have to see what role will be played by the natural gas. This current geopolitical situation, a lot changing the outlook. There are two possible projects for new nuclear development in the country. The most prepared, or the one that is already in pipeline, is replacement of old blocks in the power plant Dukovany, so at the existing site. And there is an opportunity or possibility, potential to extend and further develop a nuclear power plant in Temelín that is already also producing electricity. So there are two possibilities, and the country, Czech Republic, is also focusing a lot on development of new technologies in areas of nuclear energy, such as small modular reactors that are currently under development and under testing phase in some based on some research phases, for example, in US, in South Korea, in other countries.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Jakub, last year, the government and trade unions in Poland signed a social agreement to phase out the hard coal sector in Poland by 2049, and this is 16 years later than the Czech side. Do you think that it is not possible to close this sector earlier? And if so, what can we replace the coal with?
Well, thank you for this question. Actually, I think that it is possible to close the Polish mining sector before 2049, and it's actually economically sensible to do so, because the vast majority of Polish coal mines are doing not very well in the economic terms. They are generating losses, and the latest bill signed by the president of Poland to transit the huge amount of for 30 billion zlotys to the Polish mining sector just to help it to survive is the best proof for the poor economic condition of Polish mining sector. However, first of all, we have to admit that this deal that was struck last year that you mentioned is a quite a significant step towards closing the Polish mining sector. It is a historically significant moment in Poland, because this is for the first time in history we are officially deciding over the end of the Polish mining sector. So for a country like Poland, when the mining traditions and the perception of miners are quite relevant, and the social recognition of miners is something that drives society to support this particular group. Well, this is quite important to step in Poland to close the mining sector. However, we are not sure if the deal that was signed between the trade unions and the government will survive the economic turbulences that will hit this sector in next decades. And I think that the situation in the European Union and the developing climate policy of the European Union will be a bigger and bigger burden for the Polish coal-fired power plants, and of course for the mining sector. And what's more important for this branch, we have to remember that the poor situation of this sector stems mostly from the poor geological situation of the mines. We have a lot of methane in the mining grounds. We have poor quality of coal. We have quite deep mines that extend even 1 kilometer under the ground. It of course generates a lot of costs. It generates a threat to the lives of miners. So this is something that of course will have an influence on the overall economic situation of this sector. However, if we are talking about replacement of coal in the Polish energy sector, we have to remember that the investments in energy sector last for a long time in comparison to other sectors of economy, and to put the capacities that will replace over 70% of our energy mix in terms of energy generation, we have to start investing right now. And I see some investments in the renewable sectors, like for example, first offshore farms that will be placed in the Polish Baltic Sea in the next several years. However, renewables are not enough to replace coal. We have to build capacities that are not dependent on the weather. And here we stand in front of a choice between new gas capacities and the nuclear ones. And right now, the gas fuel and the enlarging the gas import dependence is quite dangerous in our part of Europe because of possible gas traps set by Russia. And we do our best to avoid any stronger dependence on the Russian fuels. We actually the gas flow from Russia stopped in Poland on 27th of April, and we are we're not thinking of any new possible contracts with Gazprom or any other Russian entity that provides with natural gas. So we are looking on the non-Russian gas sources. However, the growing demand on gas, it's not something that we will manage with our own capacities to get this fuel, because we have limited capacities of, for example, Świnoujście LNG terminal and Baltic pipeline that is going to start operating in October this year. So we have to count that the gas flows that we will receive to our current demand and to the growth in, for example, gas heating sector. And any additional capacities to this calculation will maybe hit the balance between our demand and our deliveries. So gas capacities are not the best option right now. So we're looking on the nuclear. However, while the time passes, we have not made any significant decision on nuclear, on starting the first nuclear power plant, starting the construction of this unit. We are looking forward to the American offer in terms of the technological development of this of the nuclear unit, and we are still hoping for the 2033 to be the year of the launch of the first Polish nuclear reactor. However, in my perspective, it is not possible to build a nuclear power plant in a country that is a nuclear greenfield in just 11 years. That's not a possible thing to do. And so we should count the nuclear to appear in the Polish energy sector in the late 30s, I believe. Or in the mid 30s of this century. So there is a huge problem in the energy sector, and there is a huge problem with capacities, with additional new capacities. So I believe that the Polish government will try to prolong the usage of the current coal-fired power plant, just because there is no possible and sufficient amount of capacities to be added to the Polish energy system to just keep up with our demand that is growing still. So I think that we will stay with coal a bit longer than we thought, just because of the stability of the system. And perhaps we can use the current situation, the situation when we use some extraordinary measures to keep our energy security because of the situation in Ukraine, to argue for prolonging the usage of our coal-fired power plant. So this may be the plan for the next several years, and I hope that the new capacities in renewables will start soon, and that we will catch up with a nuclear project.
Thank you very much that you mentioned also renewables. I think that maybe the best solution for the unreliability would be magazines for energy. However, there was a lot of talk about the big projects in the renewable sector. The government, the Polish government has announced 50 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity, and I think it's that what you mentioned, so the offshore. However, our transmission networks are in poor condition, I guess, and it will be not possible to transmit such power. Do you have any solution for this? Because we want to build 50 gigawatts, I would say immediately, but we have no idea how to send this energy. Jakub, do you have any solution?
Well, this is a huge issue because Polish national grid will have to be rearranged just to make sure that the flow of energy will come from the northern part of Poland when the offshore wind farms will be built and where the nuclear power plant is expected to be built. So this will completely rearrange the current set of the grid that focuses more on the southern and central part of Poland when the biggest current existing power plants are. So that of course is something that should be solved by new investments, by new grid, by completely new power lines. And of course, this in this issue, we have hidden the explanation for let's say skeptical actions of the Polish government towards new renewable energies, such as blocking the new investments in wind energy on land. That were blocked by the Polish Act, so-called Distance Act of 2016. And since then, we see no new investments in Polish wind farms on land, and this is something that actually limits our possibility in adding new capacities to the energy sector. However, it stems from the skeptical view on renewables. The view is of the Polish national grid operator, the Polskie Sieci Elektroenergetyczne. So this is a huge issue because we have to, in our talks, in our analysis regarding the Polish energy transformation, we focus on new capacities, we focus on new power plants. However, we forget about the transition, the power grid, the national grid, and of course it's not just the transition, it's not the highest voltage power lines, but also the distribution and the lowest voltage lines, which generates the biggest energy losses on the sending the electricity from one point to another. So this is also a sector that will require huge investments, that will require huge funds. And I think that the only way to make it happen, to make this investments go, is to seek help from the funds of European Union.
Thank you very much, Jakub. Tomasz, I have firstly one question for you regarding the nuclear sector. Do you have any advice or maybe advice for Polish society? Because I think we're trying to build the nuclear power plants since a very long time. However, still the society is quite skeptical. So could you provide us with some information that they are not that dangerous?
Look, the positive in our case is that nuclear energy has a high level of public support in the country, which means that there are no political discussions, there are no political cleavages on whether to use nuclear in our energy mix or not, which is not the case of all EU member states. At the same time, I agree with Jakub that any large-scale projects in area of nuclear energy takes more than a decade to accomplish. To illustrate, the preparations for the or planning for the new investment in new blocks in old nuclear power plant Dukovany started already 4 or 5 years ago, and right now we are launching the tender for the company or for the group of companies that will construct the power plant with ambitious plan to complete it and to put it on grid by 2034, which means still another 12 years after 5 years of planning. And we know also that there are very few nuclear power plant construction projects in Europe or globally that would be finished both on time and on budget. So there are risks and there are costs to developing nuclear energy for sure. And it is not an immediate medium-term solution for example, the current energy crisis we are facing in Europe, especially heightened by Russia weaponizing the natural gas exports, stopping exports already to Poland and Bulgaria, and threatening to stop exports to other countries. So we are certainly in a position that we need to start planning well in advance. We really need to plan with a horizon of 20 to 30 years where our energy mix should go, how it should be transformed, because these projects are not possible to finish in 1, 2, 3 years. This is a really a project that needs a broad consensus, because there will be a lot of government that will need to supervise the construction of a nuclear power plant. And if I may just briefly react to Jakub's remarks on the need for upgrading the transmission and distribution grid in Poland. It is the case for all EU member states. If we are to really succeed with energy transformation of Europe, we cannot do it without upgrading substantially the grid, not at the national level only, but at the trans-European, transnational level, because our systems are already highly interconnected. For example, Czech Republic is still a big electricity exporter. We are exporting some 12 terawatt hours a year to most of the neighboring countries, but we are at the same time importing electricity from Poland while exporting there as well. So we need to really upgrade our electricity network if we are to be successful in a green transition. If we are also to get ready for example, large-scale implementation of electromobility.
Thank you very much. Tomasz, also 1st July marks the beginning of the Czech presidency of the European Union. And you already said something about upgrading the grids, but what will be the Czech Republic's most important objective in the context of energy in the European Union? Would it be upgrading the grids or something else?
I have to admit that it is not yet clear what will be the key priorities for the Czech presidency. It will be largely determined by the conflict at Ukraine, the war Russia launched against our neighbor, and about all the implications that it brings to us in terms of security, but in terms of energy crisis we are facing. And I believe that it will be a lot about implementing, for example, a Repower EU initiative. It will be about maybe also discussing or reopening some of the proposals that are part of the Fit for 55 package, because most of them are expected to be negotiated during the Czech presidency. And I see that it will be a lot about natural gas issue. It is right now at the center of the energy policy debates in Brussels, in capitals, because most countries, especially in our region, are heavily dependent on Russia with difficult options for diversification or for replacement of Russian gas as a major source in some sectors such as heating, in industrial use, and with increasing proportion of electricity generation being based on natural gas as a primary source, also in electricity sector.
Thank you very much. Poland and Czech Republic wanted to cooperate on energy security. It was said by Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala during a joint press conference with Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki. And this working group will include representatives of ministries and companies. Jakub, how can Poland and Czech Republic become so-called guarantors of energy security for each other?
Well, first of all, we have to notice and acknowledge that the talks on increasing the level of energy security in the Central Europe are quite advanced right now and are ongoing between both Poland, Czech Republic, and Germany, and Slovakia, and other countries that are involved in this situation, in this enhancing our common energy security. Because the countries that I mentioned are both. Are just a group of member states that are facing similar problems, and we can develop similar answers to this and solutions to this problems. And Poland is playing quite an important role right now because we have invested a lot in the last several years in our energy diversification in terms of the capacities to receive non-Russian gas and oil. We do have right now the oil terminal in Gdańsk that can be used to deliver enough oil to cope with our own oil demand, the crude oil demand, and to even export this oil by pipelines to our neighbors, to our neighboring states. And Poland and Berlin recently developed a solution for Germany to be more resilient in the terms of any possible oil embargo that is now being discussed on the level of European Union. Of course, the embargo targeted to the Russian oil, and with the help of the Polish infrastructure, the Germans will be able to free the refineries in the eastern part of their country from the usage of Russian oil. This is a quite an important step in cooperation between Poland and Germany, and in building the common energy security. And in the terms of natural gas, Poland has also developed a large infrastructure for receiving this resource from sources other than Russia. And we have right now operating an LNG terminal in Świnoujście. This now being extended in terms of receiving capacity to 7.5 billion cubic meters per annum, and the final capacity of this unit may reach even 10 billion cubic meters per annum. We have operating gas pipeline leading to Lithuania that connects Poland with the other LNG terminal in Klaipėda. And this pipeline called GIPL may deliver up to 2 billion cubic meters per annum. And these are the windows for the gas world, for the gas world that is not the Russian world, and for the transports that are coming from non-Russian sources. So this is the possibility this creates a possibility for Poland to resell this gas to other receivers in the Central Europe, and this is actually the most important subject of talks between Prague and Warsaw to possibly build a new gas pipeline that will lead from Poland to Czech Republic and will allow the Czechs to receive the gas coming from Polish gas terminals. And Poland is planning to build another terminal, the floating unit in the Bay of Gdańsk. So this will also create a possibility for example, Czech Republic, but also for countries like Ukraine or Slovakia to order gas transports coming this way, coming by sea to Poland, and that will be transmitted by pipelines to the internal of the continent. So this is one of the most important topics that are being now discussed by both Poland and the Czech Republic. And I think also that we should focus on the possible electricity cooperation between Poland and the Czech Republic, because the generation gap that we will see in Poland, in Polish energy system in the next few years, creates a space, a room for energy imports, and these imports may be provided by the Czech Republic, by the Czech, for example, nuclear sector that is quite well developed and is now being developed even to the broader extent. So that may lead us to some important takes in terms of mutual cooperation between Poland and Czech Republic. And I think that there is quite a huge space for this, and we can go further in this to just fulfill our both mutual interests.
Thank you very much. And Tomasz, where do you see the possible areas of cooperation in the energy sector?
I largely agree with Jakub that the main area, or the area that is of particular interest right now, is cooperation in natural gas import and substitution for Russian gas. We are in the situation that we import more than 90%, almost 100% of the natural gas consumption in the country from Russian sources physically. Although we are buying it through stock in Netherlands or in Germany, but the physical source of the gas is in fact Russia. And this is creating a lot of vulnerabilities in this turbulent geopolitical situation. And the government will need to look into both bilateral solutions, such as cooperation with our neighbors, especially Poland, because as it was said, Poland has already done a lot of preparations for possible crisis, replacing some of the Russian imports by contracts with other producing countries, such as United States, with Qatar, and developing the necessary infrastructure, such as Świnoujście, and now also the Baltic pipe that should be in operation by the end of the year, if I'm right. What we are still missing is necessary infrastructure to interconnect our countries. Unfortunately, the plans to build a so-called Stork 2 pipeline that would increase the capacity for cross-border transmission of natural gas between Poland and Czech Republic was cancelled in 2019. And right now the debate is whether to go back to the original plans, because the existing interconnection is both difficult to use for reverse flows, and more importantly, it has a very small capacity of some 0.5 billion cubic meters of natural gas a year, with a serious need for at least 10-fold of the capacity probably in the future. So I see there are possibilities in terms of natural gas diversification, But I believe there are more opportunities also in terms of, for example, cooperation in areas such as refining. Czech Republic imports a lot of oil products from Poland, from Hungary, from other countries in the region. And I agree that in the future we should think about how to cooperate in areas such as electricity generation. I would like to stress that we missed one area which should be considered a priority as well, and it is energy efficiency. Because if we can do something in a relatively short term to bring down our dependence on natural gas from Russia, it is energy saving. We should look into the possibility to speed up investments in energy savings, in our building stock, in industry. And I believe that here is a huge potential for cooperation between Czech and Polish companies as well. Which also brings me to the issue of having a pool of qualified workers for all that. Where I think that both governments should think together how to find necessary labor for achieving all these goals at the same time. Because in many areas we are facing a shortage of labor, qualified labor, in, for example, insulation of houses, in smart grids, in new technologies. And this will be one of the obstacles for a swift transition towards a more secure and reliable energy system. Finally, to add, I think that we should work at the bilateral level, but both Czech Republic and Poland should also push for much more robust EU policy on energy security. Whether it is putting in place common gas purchases, whether it is strengthening the solidarity clause in treaties, really to build a more robust EU policy on energy security that can help especially the countries that are most vulnerable, which are the countries in the Central and Eastern Europe.
Thank you very much. What you've said about Poland and Czech Republic bilateral relations, I think that those two countries are undergoing a new opening. And I have to ask you about the issue of the closure of the Turów power plant. And from the perspective of the time when the conflict has already been solved. So was it more like a political conflict, or were there rationalists on both sides from the Polish and Czech point of view? Jakub, could you please start?
Yeah, first of all, the issue, the problem, the political problem, or the Polish-Czech dispute over the Turów mine should have been solved by just the cooperation of two governments without taking it to the European Court of Justice. And the fact that it happened shows only the negligence on the Polish side. Put the Czech partner to do so because of negligence, because of the improper way of behavior towards our Czech neighbor, and this was a kind of issue that could be solved on a regional level, even. Without engaging any institution of the European Union, or even without putting it up to the governmental level. That was something that should be solved just by the regional governments, or with a little help of the central ones. However, it did not happen. It happened otherwise, and Poland saw that the situation was. That the Polish government lost the control over the situation when the European Court of Justice decided to rule against Poland, and the ruling noted that Poland to stop mining the lignite in the Turów mine, and that was something that cannot be done by Poland because of the possible threat to the energy security. And that situation actually shows two important factors that should be treated very seriously by Poland or by any other member state of the European Union in the upcoming energy transition. First of all, the court that made the decision was the decision. Sorry, the court went too far. It put the energy system of the member state in danger of failure. The failure that can be extended to other member states, because in case of the failure of the Polish system, there is a possibility for other European energy system to collapse also, or to have brownouts or blackouts and the other failures or problems with energy generation and transition. And what's important, this kind of instruments, this kind of rulings can be used against other generation units, such as nuclear, for example. And we all know that, for example, Austria and Germany are the countries that do not that are not very keen on developing nuclear technology in Europe. And Austria even decided to ban it legally by a specific act, and Germany is closing the last German operating nuclear power plants by the end of the year 2022. So the anti-nuclear attitude of specific member states in the European Union could lead to possible disputes, issues with the member states that are planning to invest in new nuclear generation units in the future. And it may lead to similar rulings that were made on the basis of, for example, security breaches or security threats or any kind of a negative influence that a nuclear power plant could have on the neighboring states. So these are two remarks that are quite important right now when analyzing the case of Turów mine and Turów power plant. And we all should keep it in mind while discussing the future transition of the European Union energy system towards climate neutrality. And of course, to remember that there is no that the several specific European member states look differently on the way that we should take to the climate neutrality, and these differences may lead to disputes, may lead to arguments, may lead to conflicts between the specific member states, and these conflicts may even stop the transition at all because of some regional sentiments or some regional infrastructure problems. So this is this Turów ruling by the European Court is quite important for the whole European Union, because it shows that the court may intervene in the energy system of member states, and this is something that can be considered even as a breach for the treaties and for the privilege of the member states to create the energy systems by their own vision and by their own demand.
Thank you very much. Tomasz, could you please comment on it and also show us the Czech view on this dispute?
Indeed, I would talk about my personal perspective because, as a direct participant of the talks in the past on over the Turów mine, I don't want to present the official position of the Czech government on that. First of all, I would like to stress that there has been a huge asymmetry how the case is perceived by public authorities in Poland and in the Czech Republic. For Polish authorities, it was a question of national interest, while in our case and from our perspective, it was largely a regional issue concerning a particular region of the country affected by the mining activities or in Turów mine itself. Second, I agree with Jakub that the whole situation was possible to be solved by proper communication and negotiations between both sides. And here, I would like to only stress that the lawsuit was for the Czech side a step of the last resort. It has been always something the Czech diplomacy, the Czech authorities tried to avoid, and it was only after the failure of achieving an agreement on how to solve and protect the interests of Czech citizens affected by the mining that the lawsuit was taken to the European Court of Justice. However, I would disagree with Jakub on the reading what was the substance. The substance of the case was not about forbidding the mining. It was not perceived from our side that it is the competence and the relevant issue for us, but it was the procedure of issuing the permit by Polish authorities, where we raised an issue that the European law was breached because it was not possible for the Czech authorities to be part of the process of issuing the permit because of the effects of the mining on the Czech side of the border. I'm at the end happy that the government reached the agreement, even though I can be a little bit critical to the agreement. But as I said, the lawsuit was the step of the last resort, and we always wanted to protect the interests of Czech citizens by negotiating with Polish authorities how to prevent possible negative impacts, or if we are not to mitigate them all, how to compensate the people in the region that, for example, are now having problems with drinking water supplies, because the whole story of the mine of the Turów was about a growing problem with underground water reservoirs on the Czech side that supplied some 30,000 inhabitants in the vicinity of the mine, in the immediate vicinity of the mine. So I think that it was possible to prevent that the European Court of Justice was involved if both sides were negotiating in good faith and with respect to perspectives of both sides. And also probably by acknowledging that there is an asymmetry on the perception of the importance of the case between Prague and Warsaw, because it was probably less of a national issue here in the Czech Republic than it was in Poland.
Thank you very much. Jakub, would you like to comment on it?
Yeah, just one short remark. I agree, of course, that the energy result of the ruling was not the substance of it, but even if it was a collateral damage of that ruling, we should consider it as a possible influence on the rulings of the Court of Justice on the national energy sectors, and we should keep in mind that this may be also extended to other energy sources than the fossil fuels powered power plants. So yeah, but just on that short remark from me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tomasz. Thank you very much, Jakub. Well, we came to an agreement. Well, many thanks to our guests for joining us today. Thank you, Jakub. Thank you, Tomasz. And many thanks also to our Czech partner, European Values. The event will be available on our Facebook, YouTube channel, and at warsawinstitute.org. So to be sure that everyone who's interested can watch it. Thank you so much for joining us again, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.